and custom designs today at 817-400-4040 or visit our website at romikadesigns.com. We look forward to helping you make your mark.
Hey travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820.
Got a deck carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleveland, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleveland, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give him a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more.
800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Hello, Joko. Today, new show, The Breakdown. This week's episode, Free the ISD. It's election time in Johnson County. May elections, different things going on, city councils, school board elections, all kinds of stuff. Today, we're going to be joined by 4 women that are running for Joshua ISD School Board trustees and Godley ISD School Board trustees. First segment, we're going to have Georgia Wight-Head and Angela Tolliver for Joshua. In the second section, we'll have Kayla Lain and Nova Olson for Godley. So what is the breakdown? We want you to join us as we break down the local school districts and city councils in Johnson County. We will be deep diving what is really going on in those school board district presentation rooms, executive sessions, city halls. We will be deep diving what is really going on, what it means, how it affects you, and what you can do to get involved and be part of the solution. So, today, we're going to introduce first Miss Georgia Wight-Head and Angela Tolliver. So, ladies, tell us about yourself, what places you're running for, and how the campaign's going so far.
All right. Can you hear me okay? I'm Georgia Wight-Head. I grew up in Joshua, Texas, and I went to school there, kindergarten through 12th grade, and graduated from there. Moved away for a little while, raised my family, and just the past couple of years came back to live on family land. Me and my husband built a house. We're empty nesters now, kind of taking care of his daddy that lives outside of Egan, near Alvarado, and my mom and daddy. So anyway, and I've decided to run for school board for place one. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Angela?
I am a Johnson County resident my entire life except for 9 months. And I grew up in Burleson, and I've taught in Joshua for 15 and a half of my 22 years. I'm now a real estate broker, have my own company, and I have a wonderful family, empty nest. Daughter's about to graduate from UNT with her master's in library science, and married 9 years to a childhood sweetheart, and that's about it.
Awesome. Well, Georgia, I had the mic off, so if you want to reintroduce yourself, I apologize for that.
Oh, no big deal.
Difficulties. I think we got it sorted now.
Sorry about that.
No worries, my fault.
Oh, no. I'm Georgia Wight-Head. I grew up in Joshua, Texas. Went to school there, kindergarten through 12th grade. Got married to my high school sweetheart. He was a Burleson boy. But anyway, we've been married for about 37 years. We moved to, shortly after college, we moved to Louisiana, raised our 2 boys there. We've got 2 grown sons and a sweet little daughter-in-law. And then the last couple of years, we moved back to the Joshua area on my family's land, and my husband and I built our house. We've got we're an empty nest now. So and I've been a high school teacher for 27 years. So like Angela and I were both at one point family and consumer science teachers. So
Awesome.
Anyway, so I'm running for Joshua School Board place 1.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, for throwing your hat in the ring. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
No, not at all.
It's not fun at all. And so we're in the middle of election cycle. So if you're in Joshua ISD and haven't voted yet, you can vote until 6 p.m. today. You can vote tomorrow from 7:30 to 6 p.m. And election day, the final day, will be Saturday, May 6th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if you haven't voted, please get out and vote. There's a lot at stake here with these local elections. And to be honest with you, not many people vote. So your vote goes a long way and can really affect change locally. But thank you for participating here, ladies. And again, thank you very, very much for getting involved.
Sure.
So Joshua ISD has been going through some pretty significant changes. They've had a superintendent turnover and some other stuff. And they've made some national news with some legal issues. And they've had some concerns with that. Would you care to talk about that and how you plan on navigating that?
Sure. The way my story or how I all got started in this was about this time last year, a little bit earlier, beginning of April. I saw that they had a bond proposal on the ballot, and my parents mentioned to me, would you look into this? And I started doing some deep diving into it. Didn't really like what I was seeing. Saw that the whole community wasn't involved in the long range, the planning committee, the bond steering committee. It had just been kind of hand selected, if you will. And so when I was finding all of this out, I thought, you know what, let's just campaign to beat this bond. So that was my only intention. I was just going to campaign to beat the bond, and started putting together a team and got involved in that. And as I was speaking out, because I'm just one of these people that when I see something that's not right, I'm going to stand up, and I'm not afraid to say what needs to be said. So I was on Facebook a lot speaking against this bond. And I guess it was because I was outspoken. I'm not really so sure. I had a lot of parents start reaching out to me and express it, and some teachers and some school employees. And now these were current. We had a little bit of an uproar where some employees were let go. I'm talking about current, employees that are still there. But anyway, I had people reaching out and saying, we've got some stuff going on. Can you help us, look into this? So I got involved with that, which was never my intention. I mean, even after the election, my husband was like, you got accomplished what you wanted to accomplish. You're done. You don't have to continue on this road any further. And I said, look, I'm a teacher at heart, and I'm seeing what's happening to other teachers. I'm seeing what's happening to children. What kind of person would I be if I did not stand up and take a stand against this? So yeah, there were some things going on that, and it's funny because the people that work in the schools, they're like, oh, well, you can't, there's no possible way you can know the whole story due to FERPA. You don't know everything that's going on. Well, I was privy to the information because I had parents, bringing me in and sharing the information. I've sat at the table with some of the, administrators on some of these grievances, and the things I was seeing, they weren't right, and it shouldn't have been happening that way. And so I kind of started standing up for them. And now I've kind of forgotten what your whole question was.
Well,
That's kind of how
about
it got
the legal
started.
thing. So
Yeah.
so I moved to Joshua, and I currently send my children to a part-time homeschool and a part-time in-school private school. And I really wanted to put my children in Joshua, and I had some experiences, poor experiences in other districts. So I went in and evaluated it. And one thing that I saw, and I, this is with a clean palate. I have not been there, and I'm walking in with as fresh eyes as you can see.
Right.
And I see very, very basic day-to-day operations on, things and questions that parents would have. And it seemed like there was a lot of lawyers where they were hiding behind this legal shield.
Yes.
And I didn't understand why. Can you explain what that's about?
I'm not, well, I don't really know what it's about and why they do that. One of the things that I've been pressing for, because I have been to every school board meeting for the past year, the school board and the school district are two separate legal entities. Okay. The school board should have an attorney, and then the district should have an attorney. They have the same legal firm representing both. Okay. And the grievances, some of these things, like we would sit down, and I'm always there to tell a parent, if you have a problem with a teacher or a principal, please, by all means, go to that person first. That's
Sure.
the first thing you do. I mean, as a teacher, definitely, I want the parents to come to me, the student to come to me. Hey, if you've got a problem, you come
Definitely.
talk to me,
Right.
and then go to that level. And there have been grievances where everything was solved right then and everything was dropped, and I've been accused of just filing, frivolous grievances for just the sake of filing grievances, but that's not been the case. But another thing, a grievance is a mediation. Okay. It's a constitutional right. All right. It is a way to come to the table, get the school board, because they're at level 3. There's 3 levels, first level, second level, and third level, to go before the school board and have your voice heard.
Are they legal? Are they like a court of law?
No,
Is there a
no.
need for a lawyer?
No, not
Okay.
at all. They are a mediation. In fact, the script that the attorney gives the administrators or the principals or whoever's hearing the grievance says, the very first line, this is not a legal proceeding. Okay. There are school districts in our area that never use attorneys for these kind of grievances, but yet Joshua ISD has to have an attorney. It was like a level 1 grievance that you'd show up and there'd be an attorney there. Now, why should an attorney be sitting in with a parent and a parent? I was a parent advocate. I am a parent advocate, and I'm also a teacher advocate. Why is an attorney there? We don't need an attorney. I mean, I don't know if that's intimidation or because they can't make decisions. I do have a lot of the invoices even before I even got involved with the school district. So back to 2021, and especially the previous superintendent, it looks like nary a decision could be made without consulting the attorneys, which is should be highly alarming. And these attorneys' fees
Absolutely.
are enormous, huge.
Let me circle back to something I want to ask if I heard it correctly. So you said that the school district will use a lawyer who works for the same firm that's advising the administration, as in they commingle the legal teams?
Yes, it's the
Yes.
same firm. Absolutely.
That's in effect like a judge and the prosecuting attorney working
Yes.
collaboratively. That
Yes.
just seems that seems not only astronomically expensive, but a complete violation of due process and
Yes.
intimidation. If the parents if this isn't a legal proceeding and there's no
No.
reason to have lawyers in.
No,
Right.
a grievance is just simply a mediation. And people say, well, you need to take it through the proper channels. A grievance is the proper channels. It's just like people don't know about it.
Sure.
So that's the way to, like you said, if you can't get it set. And my advice is always go to the teacher, go to the principal, settle it. Most things can be settled if you'll just make a phone call or show up and say, hey, this, and this happened. What can we do?
Well,
That's,
and I believe that there's very strict and stringent and the districts won't waver on time constraints. So you're backed into a corner.
yes.
Am I
Yes, there is
correct about that?
yes, there's a 15-day limit, and a lot of times the parents don't even know that they have this option. But let's say it happened, before 15 days, they'll just be denied due to timeliness and say, "I'm sorry that too bad, so sad."
So
pass
you're
away.
almost forced to go down this road,
Yes.
and then the ISD will stack lawyers against you. That
Yes.
just sounds absolutely
Yes.
terrible. And I know I've seen Joshua ISD do some things with lawyers that just floored me. That absolutely common sense thrown out the window.
Yes.
Right.
And hide behind it, and it was very disheartening. And I can't imagine how much money it costs.
Right.
Have you seen this too, Angela? As you've been, and have you heard anything in the campaign? Has it been brought up? Is it a concern with the parents you're talking to?
No, well, when we've been talking to potential future constituents, when we bring that up, they have no idea. And I mean, I just learned about all this just a few months ago, and I could not believe it. And I know that people would be livid, if not, I mean, at the very least, highly concerned that this is going on, because and they don't know. Nobody. It's under the it's not common knowledge, and it should be, because our tax dollars are paying for that.
Well, you hear all the time about ISDs and school districts wanting to collaboratively work with parents.
Mhm.
But it seems like if you divert from their very narrow path, you get yourself in a bind, and they hide behind these lawyers and create difficulty. It doesn't make sense to me
Mm-mm, it
at
doesn't.
all.
It's
And
not
like I said, I
logical at
can't
all.
imagine how expensive it is.
Right.
So what about you, Georgia? Have you had parents concerned about this?
Yes. I've been in the high school classroom for 27 years, and I can say that only one time, and I have I have a heart for special ed kids and kids with the 504s. They've always been kind of the ones that I, take the most care of, I guess. Not all kids, but I just kind of have a heart for them. And all the 504 meetings that I've been to, and every, ARD meeting, kids with an IEP, that's a special ed child with accommodations. I've only one time seen an attorney present at one of those. And it was at the parent brought the attorney with them one time in 27 years. I'm hearing now, I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but I'm hearing from many, many special ed parents in the district that the district is using attorneys to come and sit in on these special ed meetings with the parents. And I'm like, why? And they're like, I don't know.
So a 504 IEP and ARD, and they serve different purposes, but they basically are the school and the teachers, principal, school, and the parents are supposed to develop a plan of action that
Right.
they agree on.
Yes.
And they're bringing lawyers into these. Is there any reason why
I
they
have
would
no
bring? Does it
idea.
make any sense at
No,
all?
that doesn't make sense to me at all. Like I said, I've only ever seen it one time in my life, and it was a parent that brought an attorney with them in a different district. So this is just really, I don't know, just doesn't make sense to me why they would bring. And that's another thing about Angela was talking about, the public does not know about how much money we're spending on these attorneys' fees. We've requested, because it's public record and
Sure.
we're paying the bills, we're taxpayers. I've requested attorneys' invoices. Now they knew they were going to have to turn them over, but instead they sent it to the Office of the Attorney General for a ruling. And every time they have to prepare a letter to send that off, it costs even more money. And then they had to turn it over, the invoices. And of course they redact a lot of names out, but and private, and you don't want your private information out there. So there are
Sure.
some things they can redact, but those invoices are the taxpayers. That's like the taxpayers' bills.
Sure,
their
the
checkbook.
amount of money
And
that
they
you're
don't want to turn them
spending-
over.
Absolutely, the amount of money you're spending, you
Yeah.
can't hide.
And that should be a
Absolutely not.
huge red flag.
Yeah.
I
And if
mean,
they're trying to hide it, that's scary
Yes.
potentially,
That
and how
tells you
much
what you
money
need
they're
to know.
spending.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember seeing on the news a parent being charged, I want to say around $7,000
for some numbers that another parent turned around and asked and got them for free. So yeah.
So one parent got something for free. Another parent
they
was
were going to
charged
charge
$7,000 for
yeah.
basically just numbers. Wow. I don't even know how to wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
But
that made national news too.
wow. So moving on, another big thing here going on in the state of Texas is South Lake Carroll ISD, which is arguably one of the best ISDs in the state of Texas, performing very, very good ISD. They send shockwaves through Texas with separating from Texas Association of School Board, which is an overseeing body that guides school boards and our members of our representative government. Can you talk about that? And is Joshua leaning that way? How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on the future with or without TASB?
Okay. TASB, like you said, Texas Association of School Boards, what that is, it's a taxpayer funded lobbying group. So basically school boards have to pay a fee to be a member of that. Okay. And again, guess where they get the fee, the money? It's coming from the taxpayers. And a lot of times they use that to fight against parents, that lobbying group. One of the things that TASB does is they provide governance, board books, all their agendas and their electronics. And that's a good service, but there are other ways to get those services. Okay. It doesn't have to come from this particular lobbying group. The reason South Lake Carroll pulled out, from what I've been told, there were about 5 or 6 House representatives in Texas that sent a letter to every school district in the state and asked them to remove themselves from TASB, just because it's a leftist leaning organization. And some of their advice for the transgender issues and just some of those ideologies, these representatives didn't feel like that our schools needed to be a part of. So they sent that letter, and some of the schools have started pulling out. I started sounding the alarm to Joshua School Board back, I don't know, August or September, and saying, this is kind of bad news. Another thing about TASB, they train school boards to vote in a block as a team of 8 and not dissent on their votes.
Whoa, wait a minute. So the organization that is supposed to be guiding the elected representatives is working with the body that they're supposed to be overseeing to work collaboratively. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Are you talking about TASA, Texas Association of School Board Administrators, working with them collaboratively for the team of 8?
I think it's more, that could be it. Or I think it's more TASB, because they offer it through specific law firms, of which our district's law firm is a TASB approved trainer, and they come in and do these trainings. And that was a big problem recently, because they went into executive session to do that training, and that training is supposed to be held in open session.
Sure.
I objected to that and was told that I was not allowed to object to that. I told them that it was a Texas Open Meetings Act TOMA violation, and they told me basically they didn't care, that they were going to do it in closed session anyway. We went back through meeting minutes, and that has always been held in open session, but this time it was held in closed session. But it's basically this attorney training them to vote as a block, basically whatever the superintendent or the district's asking them to do, they need to do. It's not representation of the people who elected them.
So, Angela, are you going to fall into the team of 8 trap if elected?
Absolutely not.
So how do you plan on navigating the big bad lobbying firms?
Well, there are other avenues for training, other companies that give training, and Georgia and I are going to partake of that, and we're not going to go do the TASB training, and we already, even if we did, like, maybe we had to do that training, I don't know, if we did, we're not going to vote as a block. We're going to vote our conscience and what our constituents want.
I think that's key. I've been to a lot of school board meetings in a lot of different states and cities, and to see more often than not consistent 100% agreement all the time. It's almost a bastardization of representative government.
It is, and that's what our country was founded on.
I don't understand why this happens. And executive sessions are meant to be very, very, very rare, limited, and specific. A school board that wants to manipulate this system can justify throwing things in it, but that's not the intent of it. And watching some of these school boards just completely disregard the legislative intent through lawyers and find workarounds is very, very frustrating. And it's very apparent if any parent, I encourage parents, get out and go to these meetings.
Yes.
And don't go to one or two, go to meeting after meeting for a period of time and begin to look for trends and consistencies. It's very, very nerve wracking when you see how it operates and you understand how representative government should operate.
Yeah.
And Georgia, do you feel the same way about TASB? Just needs to be separated?
Yes, absolutely. I think we need to pull out. And, I actually asked a couple of the board members, I said, that wasn't supposed to be in closed session. And why do y'all always vote all together as a block? I mean, and you can go back. I think we had pulled about 5 years worth of meeting minutes, and there's never been any kind of, dissenting vote. It's always, and they said, well, we're trained to do that. We have to do that. That's the way we're trained. No, that's not what an elected official does.
Absolutely not.
I mean, simple civics, simple American patriot freedom.
Sure.
I mean, that's just not what we do. That's not what we do in America.
And watching the reality is the school board is volunteer, and these are people with real lives, real jobs, taking time. But if you're not up to the task to educate yourself and learn and become familiar enough with the issues to actually to where you're dependent on who you're responsible and elected to oversee, dependent on them force feeding you and spoon feeding you how to vote. What what's the point?
Yeah.
And anybody who serves or puts their hat in the ring should be commended for that. But if you're not up to the task and can't manage that, you might want to look at potentially doing something else.
Yeah.
So hey guys, we're getting ready to go to break here in a few minutes. You got a little bit of time to talk about why Joshua ISD should vote for you and what separates you from who you're going against, and what your goals will be to accomplish hopefully when elected.
Yes. I lost my train of thought. I have a unique set of skills because I was a teacher for 22 years. I taught in the vocational department. So now they call it career and technology. And I think we should do more vocational training. That is huge. A college degree today is not what it used to be. And the things they're teaching there, I think we've gotten off track. And so I think learning a skill and is a better way for a lot of kids, not all kids, of course. And that's the thing. There's not a plan for everybody that's going to fit everyone. And so that's one of my big goals. And then being a mother of a special ed kid, my daughter's visually impaired. She's legally blind. I've advocated for her whole life. And I'll admit, before I had her, I didn't really understand the whole special ed thing and why it needed to work the way it does. And so, having that experience, on a personal level and seeing the things that she needed and how she accommodations and things like that. So that's an important thing. And I think that's some things that Joshua could work on. And so, and then my business background, I think will help because, it is budgets and business.
School districts definitely need to sharpen the pencil a little bit on their balance sheet. There's no question about that. They're out of control.
Yeah.
So, Georgia, what are you thinking? How you feeling?
I feel good. I mean, it's been hard. It's hard to stand up. I mean, it's easy for me to stand up and say what I think and do that. And then, the attacks come and then it's like, oh, well, that's not fun. But
yeah, it's hard to see how ugly people have been.
Yeah. But I mean, I know I'm doing the right thing. So I'm hanging in there. And I think that I've got teaching experience. I've got experience, going down to Austin, knowing how the legislative process works. It would be great if more of our school board members and our upper administration members kind of understood more about, or was, showed up to Austin, are you contacting your legislators and your state representatives about some of these bills? It's going to affect your school. Why aren't you down there testifying on this bill or against it or for it or whatever?
Absolutely.
That has been, and that's something that, some of the people said, well, you're busy doing that. How can you do this? Well, that's kind of what needs to be going on, because whatever's going on down there in Austin is going to affect your school no matter what.
Well, there's school districts that are talking about bringing substantial amount of tech into lower grades, and there's actually legislation that can potentially force them to remove all of that. So if you're a school board trustee and you don't know what's going on, you need to get down to Austin, pay attention. Ladies, thank you very much. We got Godley coming up next, the $1 billion bond, and Big Bad Godley. So thank you, ladies. Good luck in the election, and hope it goes well for you.
Thank you.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
Out of dead carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleveland, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleveland, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they got you covered.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
All right, Joko. We're back with the breakdown. I'm your host, Greg Cooper, and we're here talking Free the ISD. Just got done with Joshua ISD trustees, and we want to reach out to Joko Community Radio. Is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneInJoko.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store, check out our lineup, and more at JokoCommunityRadio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844-TEX-HAIL, as in the hail that wrecks your cars and roofs every spring. That's 844-839-4245. Be sure to dress your armed and more at tiffy.com. All right. So we just finished up with Joshua. They have you guys in Godley here have a little bit interesting dynamics. So we're here with Nova Olson and Kayla Lain. And if you're in Godley right now listening, you have time to go out to the polls. You can vote today till 7, tomorrow from 7 to 7, and Saturday the 6th, final day of voting, 7 to 7. So get out and do your civic duty and get those votes in. And if you're voting for the bond, it's at the bottom of the ballot. So Kayla, Nova, let's hear why you're running. And you guys are a little different. You don't run for places. It's at large. Is that correct?
Correct.
So who wants to go first and tell us why you're running and problems you want to solve?
Hi, my name is Kayla Lain. I am a school board candidate for Godley ISD. My husband and I have been married 13 years. We have a 10-year-old boy, an 8-year-old girl, and a 3-week-old girl. And we have been in Godley for 4 years. We have a small farm there. And I have been involved in the ISD for the last several years, got involved during the mask mandate, and stayed involved due to educational concerns with my son. I have been homeschooling my children for the last year because of some educational concerns that I had with the district. It's a major reason why I'm running, so that I can improve the academics in the district to where I feel comfortable sending my kids back. And I also know that there's other parents that aren't fortunate enough to be able to homeschool or afford private school. So I want to improve education for them as well.
Right on, Kayla. Thank you. Very nice. And a 3-week-old, is that what we see here?
Yes.
Right on. Look at you, trooper. And Miss Olson, what you got?
My name's Nova Olson, and I'm also running for Godley ISD and school board trustee, along with Kayla. Just letting everybody know there's 2 places you can vote for 2 people, not just one or the other of us. So 2 places. I am married to my sweetheart, Scott, for 33 years. We have 5 grown children and 7 grandchildren, with hopefully more on the way. I decided to get involved with running for school board. Really, what sparked it is some of the controversies that I have seen go on in our country, such as Loudoun County, Virginia, and Round Rock here in Texas. Especially listening to Round Rock on Texas Scorecard, and some of the things that and following that got me really thinking about what was going on in our schools, and especially what was going on with parental rights, school boards basically talking about parents being terrorists, those type of things. And I said, no, that's not right. And then as I started to see things that Kayla had been posting, sort of getting a little bit more understanding what was going on at Godley, I just decided, well, I'm not just going to complain or worry. I'm going to get involved. If I got the time and can learn about what needs to be done, I'm going to get involved. So threw my hat in the ring.
Good for you guys. And thank you very much for that. It's not tough for anybody. People like to choose sides and beat people up. So thanks for weathering that storm. It's really nice. And to caveat off what you said, Nova, I've had my kids in many different states, and talking about some of the treatment of parents and how that separation is coming. It's much worse in other states. And if you've seen that, you really see it beginning to encroach here. Mm-hmm. And Texans need to really have an antagonistic wall at the gates to prevent this stuff. Don't be naive and think because it's Texas, it can't happen here, or it's not happening in your cute little town, because I promise you it is. And if you don't stop that antagonistically, you might have some problems.
Absolutely.
So Godley, they have not only school board, but a bond issue. And so they're asking for a lot of money. And they're also having a couple school board seats up. So today we're going to talk about some of the financial troubles that Godley's currently in, and some of their academics, and whether or not this current regime and this current individuals that have been running the district for a period of time are doing a good job and deserve everyone else's votes, or if a change of course and the ship needs to be righted. So what can you guys talk about the academics and where Godley stands comparatively? And let's stick to the facts, and let's talk just about basically what the district's report card is, and
absolutely.
That. So what you guys got?
So, some of the really the concerning things, obviously we want to be concerned about education from K all the way through 12. But, obviously if we're taking a look at some of the high school, the upper grades, we should be working some things out, right? Things should be improving as we learn more. But what we've seen is some of our star percentage in some of the subjects, for instance, algebra, the end of course for 2022 for algebra, For instance, Godley is sitting at 36%, whereas the state average is 46%.
So a solid 10% under the state average in algebra proficiency. Is that how we're reading this?
Absolutely. So then how are those students being prepared to go out and do jobs?
Well, and one of the things, Godley relies heavily on their ag and CTE program, and those are phenomenal and great. But the bottom line is most kids in school go back and forth in what they want to do. And these core academics and these core subjects give you a solid foundation to redirect your life if you choose a career change. So to get bottled into one thing, you still need these foundations. So what do you think about the academics, Kayla?
I actually did link this in the comments to this video as well, of where you can see this for yourself. But this is from Godley's taper reports from 2021 and 2022. And I like to look at all grades, all subjects, because that's a good average of how the district is doing in a whole. And these are from STAR results. If you look at 2022, all grades, all subjects, Godley ISD, only 39% of students meet grade level, as opposed to the state, which is 48%. For all grades reading, Godley ISD, 43% meet grade level, as opposed to the state of 53%. All grades mathematics, Godley ISD, 35% meet grade level, as opposed to the state, which is 42%. And then all grades science, Godley ISD, 40% meet grade level, as opposed to the state of 47%. And as you can see, Godley ISD is around 10% on average in all of these subjects, below the state average. And just personally, my son, that's one of the reasons I pulled him from Godley ISD, was he was struggling to learn to read. And, I was working with him an hour and a half at night after an 8-hour school day, was paying for a tutor, and to the point of tears, because what kid wants to do an hour and a half of schoolwork after an 8-hour school day every evening? I just saw that academics were not being made a priority in Godley. They have an amazing sports program, and they seem to have a big focus on sports, but I just didn't see the focus on academics. And if you do look at their results and their academic scores, you can see that that's just not made a priority. And that's just one of my things that I want to run. I would like to see that made a priority and see these academic scores improve, because these are things that people look at when they're choosing which district they want to move to. So
Sure. And I've spent a lot of time in the Godley schools, and I've met some phenomenal educators. But what I noticed was the direction from the top was continually changing and altering what the teachers were asked to do. So there was never any consistency and continuity over time to even see if these results were working. So I absolutely saw that, and and make no mistake about it, no one's a fan of standardized testing, but that's what the schools are accountable to, and that's their basically report card. And every district that does well in standardized testing loves to brag about it. Every district that does bad love to talk about things like whole child, and we teach different things and we don't worry about that. Well, but that's their report card. These are very important, and these are the core base that kids will move forward with in life and have these basic skills for the rest of their lives. So anything else on the academics, Nova? You said you talked about algebra. Is it just algebra that's doing bad?
No, we have English, again, same time frame. Godley is at 39, whereas the state average is 48.
And these are the end of course?
Yes,
okay,
end of course.
Kayla talked about all subjects.
Yeah, these are the end of course.
So this is what they're supposed to, this tells whether like they got through these sections in school. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
And are prepared to go out into the work world or to college, which is obviously important. You need to have an education before you go to college. And then history, again, our average in Godley is 57%, whereas the state in history is 71%. And not only these are important because, when we're talking about that, Kayla and I really want to get back to core academics. We're not just preparing kids to go get a job. We're not just preparing kids to go to college. We have a responsibility to prepare our kids so that we don't fall behind as a state, as a country, if we continue to fall behind as a country, it has ramifications. Political structure, our military, it has so many ramifications. Education right here at home is so important in the way that the United States is going to function on the as a continue to function as a free, world superpower, right? We always say if America falls, what's left? There's no other place to go.
And in America, if Texas falls, out Texas goes the country.
So we have to look at this really. This is not just about who's fighting for school board position. We're talking about being holding our educators, our administration accountable to say this has ramifications outside of our town, outside of our country, outside of our state and into our country and really into the world. If we can't educate our students, then we can't compete on the world stage. And we're in a generation or two, we're going to be a different kind of country.
And also, if you just look at the state percentages, they're not great either. So it's a statewide issue as well. And, but
Fair.
Godley has to, what we can look at is compared to the state averages, but these state averages are terrible too. So it is a statewide problem. And something we've talked about before is that Texas loves football. And while football's great, that, less than 1% are going to be able to make a career from sports. So, academics have to be made a priority, and Texas is really falling behind in academics.
Sure. And not to bring Joshua into Godley's segment, but South Lake Carroll left TASB, and they're one of the, TASB guides a lot of the stuff that districts have to do. And they're top 5 every year in academics. So this is a big problem. And I know when I was over in Godley, nobody wanted to talk about it. It was like the elephant in the room. Nobody wanted to say, "Hey, we can do better." And if you can't acknowledge that these can be fixed and that they can be improved on, you're never going to find a way to do it. And adding more CTE stuff and adding more extracurricular stuff and more UIL stuff and covering this with trying to paint over this elephant in the room. You might want to back off some stuff and refocus on some of this stuff.
Well, okay. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say also, Nova and I have never been anti-teacher. We
Never.
100% support our teachers. And honest to God, the teachers that we had in Godley, which were fantastic, are the reason that I kept my son in as long as I did, because he had been lagging behind for several years. But we had some amazing teachers that really were trying their best to work with him. And it really was a district problem. It's not a teacher problem. It's a district and it's an administration problem.
Well, and I think that leads us to talk a little bit about these political organizations like TASB, these type of organizations which are not in it for students or education. They're political organizations that are trying to, we talked about in the segment with Joshua, Kayla and I feel the same way. The TASB, we've got to start moving away from these organizations that are pushing political agendas, socialist agendas, and start thinking individually what is the right thing to do. Not voting unanimously just because that's what we do, but to think individually, well, what would I want to be done? If my children aren't in school, but I remember fighting my school system and not really understanding it back then.
Sure.
But, listening to Round Rock and these two people on this and them constantly having to fight against this regime, and I'm going to call it a regime.
Sure.
And I listened to the audio of some of these meetings and them, standing up against that. That's what we have to do. We have to start saying, we're not just going to continue forward status quo. We're going to start questioning. We're going to start asking for accountability and transparency, which is Kayla and I have said over and over from the very beginning of this. We want transparency in everything that we do. As a school, a parent should not have to hunt and fight to get information. Everything should be if you're doing the right thing, it should be easy to find.
sorry. I was just going to say another thing with TASB too is it takes away the local control.
Hmm.
An ISD should be an independent school district that's controlled.
Independence is in the name for a reason.
It should be an independent school district that has local control with community values. And what TASB's training does is it makes all of the ISDs vote a certain way, and the training teaches them to vote and have these values that may not align with the community values, and it really takes away from the local control.
Well, and funny you should bring up transparency because there's a big bond going on, and there's a lot of information about this bond. And Godley is in a little bit of financial dire straits if you want to look at it. Do you want to talk about any of that at all?
Yeah, so one thing that Nova and I have been doing with the bond is we printed these yellow door hangers, and we have been going door to door, just the two of us, and we've been educating people on this bond, on the amount, on the implications, on their tax bills, and we've been making sure that people are aware that there is a vote going on. That is part of this election. It is $889 million. And from what we've seen over the last couple of years is that Godley has been not able to pay their current debt with their INS rate of 50 cents. And so I'm seriously concerned over the financial ability to be able to pay with our INS rates with the community that we currently have another $889 million.
Well, and one of the interesting numbers is so Godley carries almost $46,000 more debt than the state average. And this is before the bond. So what is that going to do to the debt comparatively? I mean, $46,000 more than the state average before we're adding almost $1 billion. That's before interest.
Sure. So I believe, I think you guys were briefing me earlier. The state average is around 20 some thousand, and Godley's at 67,000. And this is per enrolled child.
Yeah.
And the reason enrolled child's important is because a substantial amount of budgeting is done by attendance.
Yeah.
So the amount of kids that are in the school are important. So how does Godley do on spending and receiving money?
Well, Godley receives almost $1,800 more than peer school districts and close to $2,000 more than the state average before growth.
So they're receiving more, they're spending more, they're in debt more.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked to academics earlier, they chronically underperform. And they're asking for how much more money? Is that principal interest? How much more money?
Principal and interest, you're looking at $1.7 billion if you factor in interest.
So $1.7 billion. I believe Godley has around 2,600, 2,700 enrolled kids.
Yes.
And this bond is going to push out another 5,000 to mid 8,000s. Is that correct?
Right.
Now, so bond $889 million. Where is that in the states, districts, cities? Everyone calls bonds. How does that compare to the rest of the state?
Yeah, Godley is the 6th highest in the entire state.
Yes.
Entire state of thousands.
So out of, let me get this straight. So out of the entire state of Texas,
Yes.
the districts that are calling bonds now, little old Godley is calling the 6th highest number.
Yep.
Yes, correct.
Now, do they have to call a number this big? Is there other options that a district has? Because I know that a lot of the messaging is, well, we need this for the kids. If we don't, we're going to have overcrowded classrooms. We're going to have this. We're going to have that. And we won't have this. We won't have that. So there's a lot of fear mongering going on. Is this the only option the ISD has is to call a $1.7 billion bond this May?
And that's one thing that we're requesting. If this bond is voted down, we just want to go back to the drawing board and put a more fiscally conservative bond package together. We understand that we have growth coming. We understand that we need additional classrooms, but we don't have to spend $900 million. And another thing too, Godley is using forecasted growth projections from several years ago. And what we're seeing right now with banks failing, with this bond program that backs districts in Texas and allows them to have a low interest rate that's ending, is that we may see an economic downturn like we haven't seen since 2008. And it may severely impact the amount of growth that we have. So I feel like we need to kind of keep an eye on the market on what's going to happen before we call this kind of money. Because we may not see the growth that they're projecting.
Sure. And preparing to grow, that's obviously a responsible thing to do. But But going over some of this paperwork, this really looks like a very high limit credit card or line of
Blank
credit.
check. Yeah. I'm going to write you a blank check, and
sure,
I'm sure you're going to.
Well, and for the convenience, Greater Godley, we won't bother you again for 10 to 12 years.
False.
Well, they weren't going to call this bond until 2026.
Yeah.
And now they're here in 2023. So taxes are a big issue. A lot of people say taxes won't be affected by this bond. Where does Godley sit now in the state of Texas on taxes?
They are the 11th in the state. 11th in the state. I want you, all the listeners, to think about all of the size school districts in our state, our entire state, and think about why the town of Godley is the 11th highest.
So there's well over 1,000 ISDs, and
Right.
Godley is
Around
taxed
1,400.
around 1,400 with charter schools and everything. Yeah. So they're taxing their residents at a rate that's the 11th highest in the state of Texas.
State of Texas, whole state.
So to put this into perspective, listeners, as we break this down here, if you saw debt like this and you saw taxes like this and money management, and they had gone through their growth period, it would make sense. This is before,
right?
This is before Godley has gone through their growth period, and they're already tapped out. This is
more than maxed. Yeah.
And so how does this affect tax? Is this going to be taxed? Because I keep hearing this is not a tax rate increase, and there's all this confusion with some very specific verbiage.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that on the bond, the ballot, it says this is a property tax increase, and that is state mandated because Texas Ed Code 45.001 says that they can tax property in the district sufficient without limit as to rate or amount to pay the principal and interest of bonds. That's without limit as to rate or amount to pay the principal interest on the bonds. You can also find this in the bond order, which I will also link in the comments. But this is from Godley ISD's own bond order calling an election and their ballot. It's right there for you.
So the law requires specific verbiage to go on. Does the law require the ISD to be honest with people?
I don't think there's any specific.
Okay, well, let's hope they are. Let's hope it's just some confusion. I do know that there's some confusion with that a district has to propose the ability to pay at 0.50, but I also know that they subsequently can go above 0.50 if they need to be. It just comes with penalties. It just comes with penalties based on future bond capacities and what you can pull. So,
and there's currently several school districts who are above that 0.5 that they keep claiming that they can't, that by law they can't go above it. But there are currently in the state, there are school districts who are above the 0.5.
Sure.
So to say that they can't is disingenuous at best.
Sure. And I mean, I'm sure their intent is to not. But
sure. Absolutely.
But with the economy the way it potentially could be, and the amount of debt that this is, any slowdown could significantly impact this.
Absolutely.
And what are they planning on doing with this bond? Is this just basic classroom stuff? Are they branching out a little bit? Have you looked into that at all? Is it hard to? Are they very open about what they're doing?
Well, I will say that one thing that they included is a wastewater treatment plant, which I'm not sure why we're including a wastewater treatment plant in our school bond.
That should be municipal. That should be a city
right.
or county.
Right. So
it sounds great, but that's not
new
school.
Elementary school. Eventually, which.
Oh, I got a question about the new. So they just built the new elementary school.
Yes,
is that correct?
they did.
and I think they did it for $36 million. These new ones are 70, 80, and 100 million.
Right.
So they just built one that opened up a couple months ago for $36 million, and they're telling taxpayers to give them 70, 80, and 100 for each subsequent. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Well, folks, thank you,
talk about
Kayla
it more.
Lain. She's taking care of baby Ken's her daughter, 3 weeks old. Here trooping her out.
Yep.
Miss Olson, thank you. Kayla, thank you very much, and good luck with the election.
Thank you
And
so
hey,
much
we'll be
for
back
having
next.
us.
All right, we'll be back next week to deep dive this.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, JOCO Community Radio.
Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or a loved one suffering with diabetes. If you have lost your provider, or if